there, people of the great, it's Miker here. It has been a while. It has been taking a bit of a break, and I thought I've got a whole bunch of video of stuff that we've done over the past month since we've been away, and I just wasn't sure of how to get into sharing that month with you guys, so I thought I'm going to put that stuff on hold. We'll cover off kind of the big thing that took us away for a bit, and sort of tell you the story about that, share it with you in the hopes that maybe it helps somebody. It's certainly going to help me, and maybe it'll help some of you out there that are watching this, that are going through something similar. I'm going to Vancouver, by the way, just taking a bit of a trip. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm going to be in Vancouver for the next, I think, 3 days, and then I'll be back home with Tammy and the kids. Now, so let's just jump right back to the day of October the 5th. And then, like I said, the other stuff that's happened since then, I'll do in subsequent videos, and we'll just give you an update, because a lot has happened in the month of October, a lot of good stuff. But on October the 5th of this year, which is roughly a month and a day ago, we got some really, really tough news. And the news that we got was from one of our closest friends, Patricia, who's married to Clint. They have 2 girls. And the call that we got was basically that she hadn't heard from Clint in a few hours. He had gone out fishing on a lake, and she was getting worried about him. And so we were here in Calgary, Tammy and I, and we were at an event, and I said, look, why don't you, I'm sure he'll call shortly. He did call her once to say he was coming back, but that was a few hours ago, and she hadn't heard from him since then. So we thought, well, we're just going to wrap up what we're doing, and then we'll touch base and we'll see what's going on. And while that night progressed, I think we got that call around, I don't know, 7:30, 7:40 p.m., around 8, around 8:15, 8:30, and then around 9, she still hadn't heard back from Clint. And they were out camping. So they were out camping about 2 hours outside of Calgary. There's a beautiful lake out there. We've been on that lake with our boat. We've played together a lot. We've camped out there. Great, great spot. And what had happened was Clint had gone out with his fishing boat for one last fish of the season. I mean, it's getting really cold. He had one more chance to kind of get out and try his deep lake fishing lure, try and catch some fish. And he had called her to say he was on his way back, and it was after that she hadn't heard anything. So we thought, you know what, we'll go out. We'll just go out and spend some time with her, and then when Clint comes back, we'll just hang out. We'll sit by the campfire, and either we'll sleep over in their trailer, camping trailer RV, or we'll just come back home on Sunday sometime. That was our initial plan. As the night progressed, we hadn't heard from Clint. He still hadn't come back. Started to get really worried. He was out on the water in his fishing boat, and so, you know, the obvious jumps to your mind of maybe something happened, maybe he fell in, maybe he's swam for shore and he's trying to make it back to the campsite, which is a bit of a trek. And so around Tammy and I arrived there around midnight, shortly after midnight. I dropped her off to hang out at the campsite with Patricia, and then I just went driving up and down the road around the lake just to see, because I was fully expecting to see my buddy Clint. You know, he would have swam for shore. He'd be freezing his butt off because it was close to freezing at that point. No, it was freezing at that point outside. And I would pop him in the vehicle, and I'd warm him up, and we'd go back to the campsite. That didn't happen. The next day, Search and Rescue showed up. I went out with Search and Rescue and another one of Clint's close friends, another fishing buddy. We went looking all over the lake. They found his boat. Then they found some clothing that had washed up on shore. And as Sunday progressed, you know, they started sort of switching from, this is not so much a search, but now it's turning into a recovery. And so we still didn't know what his status was. We didn't know if he was hurt. We didn't know if he was semi-frozen somewhere, unconscious after he'd swam to shore. Didn't know a thing. On Monday morning, actually on Sunday night, we still hadn't heard anything, and so Tammy and I stayed out at the campsite. Patricia, who has 2 girls, figured that she would come back to the city to deal with it from here, and we would pack up the campsite and everything and bring everything back. So that's the way we left it. And then Monday, Tammy and I and Clint's brother, we packed everything up, we put everything away. We had to winterize their trailer. We brought all that back, we put it all away, and then we're basically just, waiting to hear more from the search and recovery teams. And that was like a state of, we were sure that he was going to come back. That's what we were really hopeful for. As it turns out, that's not what happened. So it took 2 weeks, and 2 weeks of kind of living in a state where it seemed like time slowed down, it sped up, it slowed down. Everybody was super upset. Clint's whole family had come in, Patricia's family had come in. We were over there trying to help in any way we could. And it wasn't until 2 weeks later to the day, which was I think October 5th, he got lost on the lake. October 19th, they found him in the water, and they had brought him out and sent his body to Calgary and all of that. So that was a really tough day. And then about a week later, as we went through the preparations with Patricia to get ready for the funeral and that whole process, and then family was still coming and going to visit over there. And then about a week after, so now we're on November, whatever it is. What are we at today? We're at November 3rd. So earlier this week, we had the funeral service and we buried Clint's body. So that month of sort of the 2 weeks of uncertainty, and then we knew exactly what the status was, and then helping, however we could, going through all of the grief and the grieving, and there was just so much to process and so much to go through. I just sort of stepped aside. I wanted to make sure that I was there for Clint's family and for mine. And so here we are. Now I'm one best friend down. And we're sort of day by day figuring it out and going through what so many people go through all the time. So what I did want to leave with you guys, what I really wanted to share with you is this. Is that I went through my mind, I was kind of stuck. I was stuck trying to figure out how did this happen? How could it have happened? You're sitting there in the boat, and then you're not in the boat, you're in the water, and then you're trying to get to shore. What's going through your head? And I went through all of that, and I was just sort of looping it and not getting anywhere with it because it wasn't helping me in any way understand. And there is no way we can understand this regardless of your faith background. I have one, but even if you don't, this is not something we can easily explain. These things happen, and that's the way it goes. So as I sort of started thinking about it, I thought, instead of worrying about or trying to understand what was, how did he end up there, and why couldn't he have made it, and what happened, I started thinking about what was actually going through his head at that time. And then I thought, because I'm in the same situation as my buddy Clint. I have a wife, I have kids, we're happily married, things are going good, we have so much fun together. I'm like, what would my friend have been thinking at that time? And it occurred to me that, I know exactly what he was thinking. What he was thinking was that he had an amazing life, that he lived every day to the fullest. He helped people experience adventures that they never thought they could experience. And he was always a part of that. He was right in the middle of not only his own adventure with his wife and kids, but he was in the middle of helping everybody else have their adventure. And it was something that he took to heart, helping other people have fun, serving other people. He was really, really good at that. And it was inspirational. And then I thought, what would he, because I know he was a man of faith, what would he have prayed? And if he wasn't a man of faith, what would he have wished for, right? I know that what he was looking for, what he was asking for at that time was really, really simple. It was just simply that his wife and that his family, his 2 daughters, would know that they are always loved, that they would be always loved, that they would be taken care of, and that they would be just around people that would help them live their adventure, just like they always were when he was here with us. Because that's what I would be thinking. I would be worried about who's going to take care of Tammy and the kids. And so, it occurred to me that that's what I need to do next. Not just me, but everybody who knew this guy, everybody who was family to Clint, everybody who was a friend to Clint, needs to now step back and think, what role do they play in making his dreams come true, making his prayers come true, which are to make sure that his wife and daughters are loved and that they're taken care of and that they still get to do adventures and they don't stop doing what they did when he was with them now just because he's gone. And so that's where I'm at. That's, basically what I'm thinking my new role is just simply keeping them in our lives, and we just keep doing what we did. It's going to be way different. It's going to be nothing like what it was, but we cannot stop living simply because we lost Clint. It's a huge loss, but I know he would want us to go on. Just like if I went, I wouldn't want the lives of my wife and kids to simply stop. I would want their lives to continue. I'd want them all to continue to grow. I would want them to be happy. I would want them to experience joy and happiness. And that's what I'd want to leave with them. So that's what we're going to do. It's funny. I've thought a couple of years back, 7, I lost my dad and my grandma in the same year. My dad passed away in January. My grandma passed away later that year in October. And those two deaths were different. My dad was older. My grandma was much older. You kind of expect that. You see that coming. Sometimes people are sick and they're fighting something and you're like, okay, they've been fighting it for so long. Sooner or later, one of them is going to win. Either they're going to get another year out of this, or whatever they're fighting is going to win. Or old age will take over and life will happen and they'll pass away like my grandma did. But when it's somebody as close to you as they were to me, like my friend Clint, and they're not sick and they're not old, they're in the prime of their lives. There's nothing wrong with them. They have everything going for them. They've got everything figured out. He was comfortable. He had a house to live in. They had food. They were doing fun things. They were taking the odd vacation, and they were spending quality time with each other. He had solved a lot of the things that many of us struggle for most of our lives, trying to understand what is the most important thing, why am I here? And then only for some of us too late do we figure out, oh my gosh, I should have been doing this with my family, or I should have, been more present to my wife. And Clint had that figured out. He had that, and so really, really tough to lose him, especially tough for his family. So yeah, I just wanted to give you guys an update. That's where we're at. And for the people that were going through this with us and still are going through it, there's been a lot of help and a lot of support, and it's just amazing to see how good people really are when times get tough. And what I try and do is I just remember that people are really that good all the time. Sometimes we just forget that we are, but I'm not going to forget that as much now. So hope you guys are doing well. We missed you, and we are all doing good. Tammy and the kids are healthy. Clint's wife and kids are healthy. We're all suffering a bit, but we're still here. So I'm going to go to Vancouver for a bit, collect my thoughts, and I'll show you what Vancouver looks like. It is cold here, but like I said, I'll give you the updates on what we've been doing over this past month. That's it. Biker out.